Hello everyone, and welcome to Watercolors That Glow. Before we get started talking about the supplies you're going to need, I wanted to show you my workspace. I have a normal art table that I paint on, but I went and bought a very large sheet of melamine board from my local hardware store, and I had it cut a little bit bigger than my art table so that I have room to spread my supplies out and be able to turn my painting around when I need it. I usually paint about 18 by 24, so it kind of takes up a lot of room when you need to turn your painting to paint at it from a different angle. I keep paper towels on the top of my watercolor paper. That way, when I'm dipping my brush into my water, I don't splatter paint and water on my watercolor paper. I keep my watercolor palette on my paper. I like to have it nice and close to me so that I can see my mixes really well and be able to just go right to the area that I'm painting in. I keep my water off to the side and I paint with a very small glass Pyrex bowl, and I'll explain a little bit later about why I like to paint with such a small bowl. I also have a really nifty spray bottle that I can mist my watercolors with. Off to my side, I have my laptop, and I have the image that I'm going to paint on my laptop. That way I can blow up very detailed areas if I need to. On the side of my table, and I'll reach over and pull this down so you can see it, this is my Ott light. It is a full spectrum light, and I like it because it shows the colors, how they're going to look in all different lighting situations, and it really shows the true color of your pigments. Mine clamps onto the side of my table, but there are lots of type of lights that you can buy that you can have them on a stand, or there's even some good tabletop ones. Just make sure that the light you're using, that the bulbs are a full spectrum bulb, and that you have a very well lit workspace. And so that's my workspace, and hopefully you guys have a nice, quiet, and well lit area that you get to paint also. So now let's go on to the supplies I think that you should have to get started. Before we start this supplies video, I want to let you know that there will be downloads available at the end of this video for a list of supplies and links to suppliers. Okay, so let's talk about the supplies you're going to need to get started in your watercolor painting. It's very important to have good paper towels. Paper towels are great for blotting areas on your painting, and they're really great for protecting your painting from accidentally dripping paint on your paper. So I always like to keep a roll of really good paper towels handy. Another thing you might like to use is just plain old tissues. Those are also great for blotting little areas on your painting. I also like to have a hairdryer handy. It helps to dry areas so that you're not waiting for things to dry. And I get this question a lot. People ask if they think that the hairdryer changes your colors or makes them fade. And no, I have never had any problems using a hairdryer on my paintings. I use it quite often. Another great thing to have is a kneaded eraser. Kneaded erasers are great because you can shape them, and then if you have too much graphite on your paper, you can easily pick it up by just gently rolling it across the paper instead of scrubbing like you would with a regular eraser. So you don't want to be scrubbing on your paper. That can mar the surface. So I like to keep a kneaded eraser handy. I also like to get my image down on my paper with a mechanical pencil. That way I don't have to keep getting up and sharpening it. I keep an X-Acto knife handy for scraping out little areas on my painting and also for cutting my paper down to size. I like to keep washcloths and lay my brushes on the washcloths. I don't like to have my brushes sitting up in a container because the water runs down the ferrules and it can ruin your brushes quickly. So I like to keep them laying flat. I also like to keep a nice misting spray bottle handy to wet my paints or mist my backgrounds when I'm working on my backgrounds. I keep a small Pyrex dish, glass Pyrex, on a washcloth, and it's very small, and as we get painting I'll explain a little bit more about that, but I like a small bowl when I'm painting my foregrounds especially, so that it makes me get up and have to go and empty my water often, which allows me to see my painting with some new eyes. So these are the basic supplies you're going to need, and we will go over paints and transfer methods and papers. That's going to be all in some other tutorials. So I just wanted to get you guys started with some basic supplies, and please follow me along with my other videos, and let's get going. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please check out my homepage and join me for more information-packed tutorials and full watercolor paintings from start to finish for beginner, intermediate, and advanced, all using my simplified method of painting with a limited palette. So join me and let's get painting.